Hi, everyone. My name is Barry Heidowitz. I'm a director here at Extreme Labs. Today we have a webinar on navigating the Microsoft AI stack from Copilot Chat to Azure AI Foundry. And our instructor, Sailaja, is on the call. So what I'll do is I'll keep an eye out for questions. You can keep questions in either in the chat section or the Q&A section. And then as time permits, I'll present your inquiries to Sailaja, and I'll also share my contact info so that if you think of anything either after the webinar, or if you have any questions about labs, training content, or exam vouchers provided by Extreme Labs, you can also contact me there. And with that, I'll hand it over to Sailaja. Thanks, Sailaja.
Thank you, Barry. It's a pleasure doing this webinar. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sailaja Mantripragada. And thank you for joining us today. I'll be discussing a very interesting and active topic right now, navigating the Microsoft AI stack from Copilot Chat to Azure AI Foundry. So again, I'm Sailaja Mantripragada. I am a 2026 Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer. I am also the founder and principal architect at my company, Low Code Power. So let's get started. Let's look at the agenda for today. So, you know how organizations are overwhelmed with the availability of AI tools, and even within Microsoft ecosystem, we hear Copilot Cowork, Copilot Work IQ, M365 Copilot, Azure AI Foundry. Looks like they are really separate products, and organizations are losing sleep on what products to adopt and which direction to take the organization, right? So today we are going to show, give it a different perspective, that the entire ecosystem is an evolution. So it consists of 4 different layers, actually 3 different layers, the consumption layer, orchestration layer, and the engineering layer. And then we're also going to discuss applied use cases and also discuss another major thing, that is governance. So let's get started with the consumption, with the entire overview. So before I start, I want to give you a big picture of the different layers, right? If you see this diagram, you see that Azure AI Foundry, the engineering layer, is at the bottom of the entire ecosystem. And at the top, we have the Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? So right now, organizations are mostly operating at the top layer. Everybody is using M365 Copilot to some extent, and that's definitely the way to go, but we will deep dive into what each of them means, right? So M365 Copilot is the consumption layer, Copilot Studio is the orchestration layer, and Azure AI Foundry is where the engineering happens, right? So let's get started with the consumption layer. This is where most organizations begin their enterprise journey. What it does is it helps your knowledge workers in the organization get immediate productivity enhancements. For example, technical writers, your chief of staff, everybody is that's in the first layer, helping with operational stuff. They are able to get immediate productivity returns from Microsoft 365 Copilot. For example, another few things are like an architecture diagram, a workflow diagram, a technical design document. It could be anything that leverages the underlying knowledge of your organization without requiring anything custom. And it's what is crucial to remember is this is the operational starting point, but it's not the complete organizational AI strategy. And here's one thing that I want everybody to get a good understanding about. We have two things. One is called Copilot Chat, one is called M365 Copilot. Copilot Chat is a free browser-based chat, similar to ChatGPT because that's what everybody's heard of. So let's compare it with that. The major difference between Copilot Chat and M365 Copilot is Copilot Chat is just browser-based and it relies on public information. It is not connected to enterprise context or your Microsoft 365 landscape. For example, your OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, Outlook, nothing is connected to Copilot Chat. It is a very basic starting point. What it could be good for is if you are getting just started and you want your employees to get used to how Copilot looks like, you could get them started with Copilot Chat and have them talk to Copilot and use it as a chat to ask questions, to get some answers. And once the teams are slightly used to the Copilot Chat, you would want to introduce them to Microsoft 365 Copilot. This version of Copilot is the true enterprise version. It gives you the leverage of being integrated deeply into your organizational ecosystem. And it's highly secure, it's permissions aware, meaning if your Copilot, if your M365 Copilot is trying to access your SharePoint site, right? It determines who the user is and only it respects your original SharePoint permissions. So it is permissions aware and only shows the user what they could see in a manual structure, and that is exactly what it would surface. Anything that the current user should not see, it will not show. And this is the foundational enterprise solution. Right? Let's see some of the major things here. So what is the underlying interface or the underlying architecture that lets your Copilot agent or your M365 Copilot look at all your artifacts in the M365 environment, right? It's called Microsoft Graph. Microsoft Graph is that's the secure connector that connects your large language model and proprietary organizational data. And the beauty is that it mirrors the exact permissions architecture flawlessly. Basically, what it's saying is whatever configuration you've done with your permissions, that's exactly what it surfaces, which also means that your pre-deployment data hygiene is an absolute necessity. That means before you start using your Microsoft 365 Copilot, it is highly advisable, actually it's mandatory, that you consider and work on the data hygiene of your SharePoint data sitting behind, right? So let's look at some critical rollout decisions before you start rolling out M365 Copilot. One is the licensing strategy. We know it's expensive and not everybody is using your licenses, or we know that you've just given out. There are some organizations that say, okay, we've given out 7,000 licenses to all the employees within our organization, and then we are figuring out what to do. What happens then is you might end up with, even if each employee is trying out one or two agents, you will end up with 14,000 agents, and you're like, where did all these come from, right? So it's essential and mandatory to think about, identify a set of users, a set of departments that you will first roll it out for, and see, just document who receives licenses and in what rollout phase, right? And then permissions audit. People, all of you who have been in the Microsoft ecosystem and M365 SharePoint ecosystem would understand how we would have created probably some SharePoint sites 3 years ago and just given out permissions to a set of departments or security groups. And at that time, what we've decided, we could have even said, let's just roll it out to everyone because we're just getting started. And then as the department grows or the company grows, we will refine the permissions. And that never would have happened, right? So it's important that SharePoint permission structure is clean enough and you go audit the permissions and ensure that your agents or your Copilot is not surfacing sensitive data, right? And then comes user readiness. Are your users formally trained? Are they equipped to understand what to do with what surfaces? Are they able to understand that they're only supposed to see certain kind of information and report to you when they see something sensitive? It's important to identify groups of users and train them well ahead on what to expect and how to deal with Copilot, and then roll out. So train them with AI capabilities, what prompts to be used and what are the limitations and stuff like that, right? And then the other part is boundary enforcement. Are we ensuring we have guardrails? So there is something called acceptable AI usage policy. So it's important to document, to come up with a policy, document it, socialize it to your teams, and make sure there are data boundaries and acceptable usage policies that the team knows of before launch. So before we move ahead, I'd like to ask if you have any questions regarding M365 Copilot. Shall we move ahead?
No questions posted so far. So yeah, let's go ahead, please.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the second layer, right? Here's where everything gets interesting now. Until here, we are talking about Copilot as a consumption AI, right? You ask questions and it responds one on one. Now this layer is the orchestration layer, and we build agents using something called Copilot Studio. This marks the transition from moving from a consuming AI to actively creating AI agents. So, what we do here is this is still a low code product. The beauty is you are able to connect to enterprise systems while keeping everything low code. So, hence you ensure and give you provide the um, citizen developers an opportunity to leverage the power of AI and give them the ability to build agents there. And then we have different types of agents you can build using Copilot Studio. So, one, it allows organizations to build agents that execute multi-step workflows. So when you say multi-step work, let's just deal with this part as an overview. We can go through as we go to the next slides. And what can these agents do? Agents can call APIs, take autonomous actions, and work across business systems. It can also touch your M365 ecosystem, which is your SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and everything. But it can also probably um, have a use case that is also touching your enterprise systems like Jira, ServiceNow, Dataverse, and other systems, right? And again, the best part is this layer, all the layers operate strictly within defined organizational boundaries. So, another thing to keep in mind when we are moving from a chat to an agentic paradigm is the chat paradigm. When you're interacting with a Copilot chat, it is stateless, right? You ask one question, you get an isolated answer. And even between chats, for example, you started a chat on a certain topic, it is stateless. So it keeps the interaction one to one. And when you start a separate chat, it does not keep your context in memory. Whereas in the agentic paradigm, what happens is it maintains context across complex multi-step interactions. It dynamically makes decisions based on synthesized data. What we are talking here is, let's take an example of asking your co-pilot for travel advice, right? You're saying, I'm going for a vacation, and for example, I'm going to Hawaii, and get me some details and some places to go to. You could, for example, you're talking to Copilot Chat. You would give it some context. You would say, I'm going with my family, I have two kids, and you know, tell me what are some interesting places to visit, and create give me a travel itinerary, right? It does things for you. It is able to talk to you, it is able to understand and look up and give you good answers, right? But that's about it. That's a prompt giving you answers. It is stateless and it stops at that. When you use an agentic paradigm, instead of, along with giving what you provided to a chat, you also provide it a goal. You say, I want my children to not get too tired, and we have 5 days. I want to make sure we are having fun, we are adventurous, but also resting, and give it multiple details, right? Now, what happens is it autonomously triggers downstream actions across multiple external systems. It talks to your, the flight system, hotels, and the different travel destinations. It takes into consideration your limitations and your guidelines, and it automatically analyzes and takes action, gets feedback, and again iterates. So now you have a system working for you when you're having your coffee. So that's the difference. So, and how do you scale from there, right? You're also able to create like a manager agent and then sub agents that the primary agent is able to delegate to your sub agents. So you're able to create a collaborative, specialized multi-agent system handing off tasks. So what happens here is Copilot Studio allows you to talk to, for example, you want to get the weather. It's able to talk to weather systems, connect with APIs and external systems, and it is also able to. So when you're saying connect to external systems, like I mentioned in the earlier example, if you are looking for guidance for it to give you travel destination based on your kids or family that's traveling with you, and you also tell I am working, so I need to be able to have high speed internet, for example, it is able to go get information from outside, but that is called non-deterministic data, right? But it's also able to ground your information in secure SharePoint knowledge from your enterprise, and then it is also able to connect to deterministic Power Automate flows. Those are called agent flows, and you're able to send data from your non-deterministic data that you get from talking to just natural language prompt, and get that data, send it to a flow. The flow will do some deterministic execution, right? So you're able to get accurate and grounded data and a deliverable as a final output. So I wanted to show you something. Maybe I'm not able to demo it right now, but I'll explain you how we move from a prompt to a deliverable, right? So take an example of your sales team. You are a member in the sales team in your organization, and you are tasked with researching for customers. You have 5 customers to talk to. Your team has 50 customers to talk to over a period of a month, and you are asked to research and get a curated document with all customer data sitting in a nicely formatted Word document. So in order to do this for one person, it's hours of time, right? You go look up at multiple places, look for whether it's current data, whether it's latest, and you check for example, when I say customer research, we're talking about, let's say a Microsoft partner wants to provide services to Microsoft, right? Let's take Microsoft as an example, and we want to research what are the product segments they're working on, who's in the key, what are the key focus areas, who are the key stakeholders, um, where are they headquartered, what are their latest um, strategic initiatives, things like that. Um, so it takes a lot of time and effort to accomplish this using manual work. What we are doing here is the we are creating an agent that receives a customer search request. So basically, just one request that says, give me the company profile for Microsoft. Internally, what happens is the agent receives natural language instructions to go and autonomously search public web and internal documents and any websites that you might provide to it, and get like maybe 25-30 fields of data, right? That's one part. This is the non-deterministic part, your agent bringing information from outside. Now what we do in the synthesis part is we create an agent flow. The agent flow takes the non-deterministic data from the trigger to the 25 fields, and what it does is we pre-create a Word template, right, with all the 25 deliverables nicely structured in a Word document, and that document will be auto-populated by this agent flow. You can use a Word online connector, and all the 25 fields that come from the agent are consumed by your flow and processed and given to your the Word document, the template as the deliverable. So what happens here is just one prompt, right? Give me the company profile for, say, Extreme Labs, and you immediately get a custom, neatly designed Word document ready to go. So now you are able to generate 50 profiles parallelly in minutes. So that's Copilot Studio. Now, when do you move to the next layer? We're talking about layer 3, it's the engineering layer. And the product within Microsoft stack is called Azure AI Foundry. So Azure AI Foundry is Microsoft's unified platform for pro-code AI solutions. This was formerly called Azure AI Studio, and this is designed to create complex, bespoke agentic AI systems where Copilot Studio falls short sometimes, right? So what you need here is you will need AI experts, so employees who have the end-to-end knowledge of expertise in Python, prompt flows, and understanding of Azure architecture. What you could do here is you're able to evaluate large language models, you're able to create custom models, you're able to fine-tune sophisticated models exclusively on proprietary data. For example, your company has finance systems, right? You now, with Azure AI Foundry, have the ability to take everything from your organization for the last 1 year in the finance division and create sophisticated models exclusively trained and fine-tuned on your proprietary data. You're able to build highly custom retrieval augmented generation pipelines using Azure AI Search. you're able to orchestrate massive multi-agent systems, right? So now you're able to create systems that talk to each other, and you're also able to check whether this model is performing responsibly. Does it have limitations, or is it able to follow the guidelines of responsible AI? And you're able to evaluate the performance of the model rigorously, and able to have built-in safety metrics and quality metrics within your custom AI pipelines. So how do you access the Azure model, right? You're able to use something called Azure subscription. So here you have complete control and absolute data residency retention by deploying models entirely in your own Azure subscription. So you're able to use more open source models like Mistral. So when we're talking about models, it is a complete separate, not just one. It's a series of presentations or sessions that we can do on just small language models, large language models, retrieval augmented generation, and what are the industry leading frontier models. It could be a complete session on itself, but it is essentially valuable to know as part of this session that when Copilot Studio does not suffice, you leverage as your subscription. So again, let's see. You start in low code Copilot Studio for rapid agent creation and automation, right? What Copilot Studio gives you is it is low code, it is rapid, and it usually suffices in many kinds of use cases, even scalable enterprise use cases. So it is highly important to assess your requirement and see if M365 Copilot suffices, or if you have to actually get Copilot Studio licenses, and if what is more important for you at that point. Do you want citizen developers to be able to build them? Do you want rapid agent creation? And it could be for productivity within your departments, and something that is quick and valuable in terms of ROI. When do you escalate to Foundry? Escalate only when platform tools reach genuine limits, right? When you're saying you want to build custom RAG pipelines, or you want to create and train a proprietary model on your proprietary data in your organization, and then utilize that model for working with your agents. And also choose Foundry when strict data residency is a requirement, and complete compliance control is a requirement. Let's see what that means. So the beauty with Microsoft AI ecosystem is you get to combine Copilot Studio, actually Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio, with Azure AI Foundry. This use case allows you to see the research to report that I was talking about. A business analyst utilizes M365 Copilot, which is the consumption layer, to summarize recent client email threads, right? So there has been back and forth conversations with the client in email, and your M365 Copilot is able to summarize and get that data. That summary you provide to your Copilot Studio agent in the orchestration layer to pull relevant public data from the web. So now you're getting data from public information on the web and also from your summary from client interactions in the email. And then the agent flow synthesizes all this data into an internal context and gives this to your agent flow to automatically populate the structured client ready word template. This is just what I've already discussed in a visual format. Let's look at another use case. So this is a governance use case. For example, we want to ensure, so this is something I came up with, I'm working on constantly with my customers. I call it the just-in-time governance framework, and how we utilize Azure, Copilot Studio and M365 Graph API to ensure immediate governance. Let's see. So an IT administrator creates a Power Automate flow, right? What it does is the flow connects to Graph API. So the use case is when you have a triage process where you're saying you have a new Copilot agent that a team is building, then the department comes to your governance portal and says, we're building a new agent, and provides you all the details about what the agent does, what data sources it's touching, and what's the business purpose, who's the business owner, who is building the agent, and maybe the complexity, the risk involved. These are the details they provide in a Microsoft form, right? Once the details are provided, maybe in a form or in a Canvas app, a flow takes all these details, and on click of a button, an agent flow is triggered that automatically scans for SharePoint permissions enterprise-wide. What it does is it automatically identifies overshared sites, and it alerts the admins prior to deployment. So before the Copilot agent is getting built, you're able to proactively govern your agent, and the Graph API scan will provide you a report saying it could either give you a remediation report saying, okay, these 5 sites are set to permissions for everyone, and you need to go change it and customize it to ensure data hygiene in SharePoint. Or it could say, okay, for whatever data sources you've provided, everything looks good, you can go ahead and build the agent and deploy it in production, right? So you've gone from nothing to now being able to proactively govern your agents. Now let's look at a use case when we would need to jump from or pivot from custom Copilot Studio agents to Azure AI Foundry, right? So now you're a health organization and you need to use Microsoft's small language model for health information. Specifically, this small language model is designed specifically for healthcare information. The model is deployed entirely within the healthcare organization's own Azure subscription, right? Compliance is of utmost importance, and patient data remains strictly in your organization's compliance boundary. And now you're able to deliver agent. You could even use Copilot Studio agent, which could now talk to the small language model, which is sitting nicely within your compliance boundary of your organization, and still delivers clinical documentation capabilities without any risk of data leakage. That's the kind of use case that you would pivot from Copilot Studio to the engineering layer. So I just put together a quick table that could tell you when to use what. And then one thing to remember, so I am a huge proponent of governance, and whenever I teach anything, it's important to weave in the governance thread. So whatever layer you're working at to provide AI to your organization, whether consumption layer, orchestration, or engineering, the goal is to ensure governance is not treated and not playing a cop's role. It is playing an enabler's role. So your governance should be your driving school, right? Which would tell you proactively whether your data is hygienic, whether your permissions are governed, your access rights before your launch. The governance layer. I usually help my customers with a governance portal that allows you to understand what the acceptable AI usage policy is, what are the strict, you're able to define strict boundaries, fail safes, and provide builders with approved actions for autonomous agents. And you're able to conduct bias testing and enforce rigorous compliance. So what I say is Copilot Studio, or in general Microsoft Copilot, is this sophisticated Lamborghini that you're handing to citizen developers, which are like your 16-year-old new drivers, right? Just because you can afford the fancy vehicle, you do not go hand keys to your new driver. You hand them a driver's handbook, make sure they understand the rules of the road, and then once they understand everything, then allow them to drive on the highway. Otherwise, it results in massive data leakage, compliance issues, and Copilot is like the bulb that you turn on in a messy room, right? It surfaces your permissions, it surfaces your boundaries, and when your boundaries are safe, when your permissions are good, turn on Copilot and everything, you're actually utilizing your fancy vehicle. So that's of major importance when thinking about AI in your organization. So yeah, summary and key takeaways. You start at consumption, you start at governance before you're thinking about scaling. So start small. As you start, train your employees, give them that driver's manual, help them understand what are the best practices when you're building agents, govern before you scale, and build agents only when chat is not enough, and engineer custom solutions only when studio agents are not enough. So the that's my tagline of low code power: build fast, govern faster. So that's all I have for you today.